A lot. They're gonna love you a lot.
Success! Pudding!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the man we've all been waiting for. And waiting for. That man is Marcus the Motivator.
G'day guys, Marcus the Motivator here. Today I am here with artist and musician Bailey Rivera. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Now we want to have a little chat to you today about your music. How's that going for you at the moment?
Little bit slow. Because I've moved. But you know, just
so you made a big step like pretty recently.
Yeah.
So you're originally from Brisbane, is that right?
Yes.
And you've moved down to Melbourne. It was in the last couple of weeks, I think you said.
It was around May or June.
So it's still pretty recent. Though.
Still pretty fresh.
So
yeah.
how you finding moving away and?
It's a massive step. So my family is all in Brisbane. I came down to Melbourne to study music, and it was a pretty interesting change of environment. It was a completely different climate. But I started to settle in a little bit more, and I just started finding places to be inspired and just figure out what I want from Melbourne.
So you're studying music down here now. Where are you studying at?
Australian Institute of Music, just on King Street.
Okay. And how's that going for you at the moment? How are you finding that as a learning experience? How's that teaching you?
It's definitely a learning curve, but I've found myself to really enjoy it. Very always busy.
Yeah.
But I like it, so I think that it's kind of again, it's a little bit hard being away from family, but I feel like the ends justify the means.
Yep. Well, we'll get back to what you're doing at the moment a little bit later, but where I want to go first to start this interview is all the way back to the start. How did you get into music in the first place? What was your influences to start with? Where did it all start for you?
I had always enjoyed music as a kid. And I was able to, I could always kind of sing just as a kid. It was more when I was around 9 or 10 that I figured out that not everybody can do the same things that I can do.
Yep.
And vice versa, I can't do everything that other people were doing at the time as well. But after that, I started figuring out that I was able to sing and, I had an interesting music, but I hadn't started writing just yet.
Yep.
But it was around 8 years old that I started to think it would be really cool to kind of do this, because that was the first time I heard Michael Jackson.
Yep.
And I was like, yeah, I can do that. So I'll take.
No, leave those on if you want. It doesn't matter.
But yeah, no, I was around 11 years old. I first sang. Well, I started singing at 10. I went on stage for this talent show, but I froze. So everyone was laughing me off the stage. I was like, won't do that again. But it came to when I was the year afterwards that I sang again, but I didn't freeze. I did my thing, and everybody really enjoyed it. So that's when I was like, yeah, I can do this.
So how'd you find performing? Well, you performed at a pretty young age. Was it a bit intimidating, a bit scary at times?
It was terrifying. It was at that age, when I had never really done anything in front of a group that big. There was probably about 100 kids in the auditorium when I did that. So it was very daunting for an 11-year-old kid to just go out and sing something. But after that, I still had the nerves. It was when I started gigging more frequently that I started to calm down a little bit.
So when did those gigs start happening for you?
So they didn't happen. I wasn't really making a profit off those gigs until I was about 16 or 17.
Yep.
But I had just been playing at little open mics at my music school or my school talent shows, same sort of deal.
Yep.
So as I went through that, I was like, oh yeah, this is starting to become more of a second nature.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did the performing just get easier and it kind of just get easier and easier and easier over time for you?
Yeah, it was because it's not that I was expecting the same thing to happen each time, but it was like, oh yeah, this is the same sort of routine. The novelty doesn't die down, but I was like, I kind of know the process of how this goes. So I'll get a little bit nervous, but then during setup or anything, it'll just go away.
Yeah.
And then I just do my thing.
So you started doing probably more gigging stuff 16 kind of onwards.
Yeah.
Talk about some of the experiences you had. Like, what was it the first time when you were doing, like, how was that feeling? Like the first time you did like a live gig in front of people at like out at a venue kind of thing. How was that for you?
Oh, that was incredible. I had been asked to play by a friend. She had asked me to play guitar for her while she sang, and I was like, yeah, I can do that. That's fine. And then she said, oh, do you mind? Like, I'm just gonna go to the bathroom. Do you mind if you sing a song while I'm gone? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And from then, the venue owner was just like, hey, you're actually pretty good. Do you want to come back next week on your own? And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I need equipment, but sounds good. So that was kind of where it started for me, just to play.
So how'd that feel? A venue owner goes, we want you, but you can come back by yourself because we like you, instead of doing like, how did that make you feel? It was like a teenager going.
I was like, is you? So she came back on her own. Like, I still played for her, but I was also playing for myself. So instead of getting $75 from the split 150, I was getting 150 plus the 75, and I was like, yeah, this is all right.
bit extra money always helps when you're a teenager kind of thing.
Definitely does. I was like, this is awesome.
So tell us some more about like the experiences you had, because I was doing like in some of the information I was reading up, you've done a fair bit of your own writing. How do you enjoy doing that? Like, how do you feel like when you write and perform your own stuff? How does that make you feel?
When I write and perform my own stuff, when I'm writing, it's like, I wanted to be an author when I was a kid.
Yep.
Much like, I think Lorde wanted to do the same thing. Lorde wanted to be an author before she became Lorde. And I guess that was the kind of same for me, because I really just enjoy writing stories and telling stories.
Yep.
So when I was writing, I was always like, oh, I'm like 14 or 15 or whatever. Not a lot's really happened to me just yet, so maybe just make some of it up and fake it till you make it. But I got to a point where like there were things that were starting to happen in my life that I was just like, okay, now I can start writing about my own stuff. And again, it was all still pretty, like, the ratio of fabrication was pretty high.
Yep.
But the hardest things to write for me were the things that were like based on actual fact.
Yeah.
So if I was writing about a family member or something, I was like, this is hard because I'm completely vulnerable in this. But the payoff when I performed was just incredible, because when I would play at a gig, I'd do the first 2 sets of just covers.
Yep.
Last set I'd say, before I start, guys, you won't know any of the songs. These are ones that I've written. I hope you enjoy them.
Yeah. And
the feedback that they give was like, oh, this is really good. Like, felt amazing. So
how does it then feel for you performing like covers versus your own written work? Because there's obviously like a bit of difference, like performing someone else's versus doing your own stuff. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I think it all depends on the subject matter. So if there's if you're playing a classic that you can't touch, in the sense that you can't really like change it, that's a bit scary. But somehow, like, when it's my own stuff, I kind of feel like I'm in the same thing in my head. Like, I can't change it too much or I won't be happy with what I've done. I like to keep it really, like, just, even though nobody really knows how it sounds, I like to keep it pretty strict on myself, how my music is supposed to sound. But yeah, no, I much prefer to play my covers my originals over my covers.
So how does it feel like when you're getting that feedback from people who are listening to your written work? How does that feel like when you're getting that feedback?
Feels incredible. Makes me keep going.
Is that one of the things that like keeps you continuing the passion and the drive and motivation, or is it more like your experiences that you have is what is like one of your motivations behind what you write?
I have like numerous motivators in my life. Like family's a massive factor for me.
Yeah.
My mom in particular is just like, yeah, you know, you can do whatever you want as long as you're happy and you're doing well. And so she's never said maybe don't do music. Like she's always just said you're good at it.
Yep.
If you want to do it. So there was that. I've also found that when I write, I have trouble like articulating how I feel to people, which a lot of people do.
Yep.
So music is kind of like that outlet for me to kind of just express my emotion
Yep.
through music. So I'd say family and like myself as well,
Yep.
kind of just motivate me to keep writing music.
So you've been up in Brisbane and only just moved down here recently. What's the music scene like up in there for playing the type of music that you want to play? What's it like up there?
I honestly wasn't really popular to the point I was playing a gig every night, you know, in Brisbane, but like I was kind of just playing like cafes and restaurants and stuff. So it was fine for me.
Yeah.
But when I had never really properly played at a venue.
Yeah.
And the stuff that I wanted to play, it feels like in Brisbane, there was never really a niche for me to kind of like target. I had trouble really like, so I used to play acoustic stuff, which I still do.
Yep.
And I continued to write, and then I changed to jazz and blues, more so blues.
Yep.
I really found that interesting. And then the same thing, like I didn't really find a place where everybody was saying, hey, here's a blues venue, like go play over there. But I came here and there's just so many venues that cater to so many genres. So
Yep.
I'm like, this is definitely the place for me.
So you realised because you weren't able to do what you wanted to do in Brisbane, and you'd worked out that down in Melbourne you could you'd find your place to be able to perform. That's when you that was one of the motivating factors behind moving down here to perform pretty much.
Yeah.
Now, moving on from that, how have you found the move for you personally? How much has it been like? I mean, you're a young man, like you're kind of just starting out. How's the move for you personally been? Moving away from family and all the comforts you had all the comforts and everything you knew in Brisbane.
It's gone. Moving straight out of school into a completely different state just to study is a very big and scary thing for me.
Yeah.
I was luckily my stepdad was already here, so I was like, oh cool, I can live with him. He's been very accommodating. Like he's saying, you know, and you don't have to pay your way until you're earning a certain amount at a job. And I'm like, awesome. So he's been really understanding and really nice about the whole thing. But yeah, every holiday and like break from uni that I get, I'm always visiting Brisbane because I'm just like, there's so much here I can't let go just yet. But yeah, as soon as I moved down, people at uni were just like, was just creating another family here, and I was like, this is really cool.
How's that been going, creating like new friends, new family for you?
I've always been a bit of a socialite, so I haven't had too much trouble like making friends and stuff, but it's hard to find the balance. Like I want to see all those guys up in Brisbane, but I want to see these guys as well. So it's like, it's starting to become a bit of a balancing game now.
Oh, I'm sure that's something you'll work out juggling over time. Now, one of the things I read in that I was reading about you is that you've done a fair bit of work with a whole bunch of different artists. Talk about some of the people who you've worked with and like how those experiences were.
Yeah. So all of the people that I have worked with wouldn't have been possible without the help of my music school.
Yep.
So I didn't go to a regular high school for the remaining 2 years of my education year. I'd been going to a school in Albany Creek in Brisbane that I was just not enjoying.
Yep.
And I was like, this is I'm not going anywhere here. And I got a text from somebody one day that's just like, hey, have you heard of MIC? And I was like, no idea. I checked it out and it was just like a school where it's basically like a TAFE,
Yep.
but you earn your OP. So I was like, this is awesome. Love to go here. Surely enough, I did, and they provided me with opportunities to meet people in the industry.
Yep.
So I met people from like heaps of Triple J artists, like people from Miami Horror.
Yep.
A girl named Sahara Beck.
How is it working with Miami Horror? Because they've released some. They've got some pretty
tunes,
good.
yeah.
They've got some tunes out. Like they're reasonably well known. They're reasonably well known. Those guys.
Yeah, no, I worked with one of the members, Aaron. He was just one of the sweetest people I've ever met. He was like, he never said these are the rules, because for music he said like there's no strict rules. You can just create whatever. So in a session about 90 minutes, we created something like a song, and I was like, this guy's awesome.
Yeah.
So I've managed to keep in contact with him fairly well. Like I've spoken to him recently. He's in Berlin at the moment.
Yeah.
And he's just doing like I don't know if you heard, but he left Miami Horror to do his own solo project, and he's doing really well with that
Yep.
at the moment. So really happy for him.
So talk about some of the other. So you were mentioning who were the other people you'd done some work with?
Yes, a girl that came from my school, Sahara Beck. She was she's a bit of a folk artist, and
Yep.
she's doing really well in Triple J. I hadn't worked with her, but I'd met her through my school, and my brother and I are big fans. Well, I am. My brother, yeah. My brother's a fan as well, but she was just one of the nicest people as well. We kind of just played music. I heard her stuff and played her my stuff, and she was just she's just really polite. I was really.
What's it like having these people that you can look up to, talk to, and know, and like, if you get in, you'll obviously have more opportunities to do things down the track. How does it feel for you knowing you'll have those people there and you'll be able to ask them questions and get support from? How does that make you feel knowing that you'll have that support there for you?
It's phenomenal. Like, it's just, I feel a lot more secure in my choice to do music because I have these people to kind of help me. And hopefully one day, like, I'm able to help them as well. But they just seem really like open to anything. Like, they just want to help others from my school in particular. Whether that be due to connections with the principal of my school or through affiliations of past students or anything. We have there's a board that kind of overlooks the school.
Yep.
And one of the members of the board is from Powderfinger. So he was one of the founding members of the label.
Yep.
But yeah.
So you've done a fair bit of your own work, writing your own stuff now.
Yeah.
And you were saying before you've done like a bit of acoustic jazz and blues. Is there any kind of any of those genres you kind of prefer? Like do you just enjoy writing and producing your own music in general?
I think I'd have to say yes for both of those answers. Obviously when it comes to writing my own music, I always love to kind of express how I feel, and I want my music to be relatable for other people.
Yep.
So one of the main things that I write about is the motif is kind of just like love. I love to write about it. I like to write about what it's like to not have love, because there's a million ways that you can describe both of those things, and a million more ways that you can describe them through music.
Yep.
So, I've always found that that's always been the strongest thing for me to write, is just an emotion that's so universally welcomed by everyone. But I had started writing acoustic music. That was my foundation. Yep. So Ed Sheeran kind of got me into I should maybe start writing music. But then I was 16 and everyone was started calling me mini Ed Sheeran. I was like, I don't like that. Not having that. So
okay. That's a pretty big parallel to kind of draw. But I suppose then I mean, how'd that feel when people were saying that about you?
It started off like I was like, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And then after a while I was like, not really into him anymore, because I'd written a song that sounded like one of his songs in a minor key. So it was supposed to sound like sad.
Yep.
His sounded happy. And everyone just said, oh, this sounds like that. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not doing acoustic music, I'm out. So I got into John Mayer and blues, and I was like, yeah, I can do this. And then, yeah, it kind of went from there. So I still kind of have experience in both of those areas.
Yep.
So more so I'll write more about blues, but there's always a song that will come from my acoustic roots at some point.
Do you take like influences from those artists, like little bits and pieces here and then, kind of put it into your own work, or do you more really want it to be basically all you and just?
Yeah, I think both. Like, well, I feel like to have your own sound, you have to like inhibit other people's first.
Yep.
So Michael Jackson was just it for me. Like, I listened to him and I was like, this guy's awesome. So I wanted to make music like him, but it was very hard for me to make the change from acoustic music to blues to like upbeat funk and pop. And I was like, this is really difficult. So maybe take baby steps around, tiptoe around it until you can find that area. But yeah, no, I'm always finding artists that I'm influenced by, and they'll do something and I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, maybe I can not steal it, but I was like, maybe I can incorporate that into what I do.
So we're here now, you've moved down from Melbourne, and you seem like you're pretty happy because you found like more of kind of, by the sounds of it, you found more of who you are and what you really want to do. What's the plans for what you want to do going forward?
I just want to play music. I just want to play shows. I want people to know that I'm here to play music.
Yep.
And at the moment, it's just like small things like open mics or like small venues. And I just got like a gig to play next week, just like maybe 2 hours ago. I was like, oh, cool. So maybe if I continue to kind of find places that I can play, then I should be able to build an audience.
Have you worked out like how you're going to do that? Like how you're going to grow, or is it just something you're just going to think about trying to work out along the way?
I've been thinking about it. It's just really hard to kind of build an audience where it's like, I've always had, from my experience, there's always got to be something that you have that draws people to want to come by and watch you again. And I'm still trying to figure out what I have that can do that. But in saying that, I think that I'm just taking it day by day and just seeing what can bring me to that point.
So any real big aspirations with your music, or do you want to just keep like what's the big long-term goal that you want to try and get to? Have you thought about that yet?
I have, yeah. I just want to tour. Just in 5 years, I kind of want to at least have a fan base in Melbourne.
Yep.
Or ideally like a national fan base. But the long-term goal is to have an international sort of like recognition. Have you spent any time like looking at how you may kind of get into playing like nationally or internationally? Have you spent any time looking at that, and what's that showed you? Yeah, well, MIC, the high school I went to, gave me all the tools to know how to build a tour budget and know how to tour cities and do everything that's basically required to make it in the music industry. So we didn't learn like science or SOS or any of that stuff, which is probably why I did as well as I did. So I have the tools, I just have to utilize them, I think. So basically MIC, they've pretty much, so you went there because you were like, well, this is music, this is what I want. And they've taught you pretty much all the tools you need. And it's
as you're basically saying it's now up to you to pretty much just go out and do it.
Exactly. My mentality when going to MIC was, which I think kind of pushed me to do really well, was I said, all right, if I don't do well here, I'm not doing well anywhere else. I've been failing every other class leading up to moving schools, so I need to prove that I can do this. And surely enough, I did a 180 essentially, and it was awesome.
Well, how'd that feel? How'd that feel for you when you went from going to a normal school to then going to a music school? How did that make you feel?
It was surreal. I didn't think that there was ever such a thing that would exist. I just kept looking at the rules and all the requirements and all that stuff, and it was just, I couldn't believe it. Every sort of condition that they had was just this isn't real. They said, you can wear free dress, you start school at 10, finish at 4,
yep.
And any classes that you don't have, you can just go out into the city and just do whatever. So I was like, I definitely want to go here. So when I joined MIC, it just felt like immediately it was a family, and I was like, I can definitely see myself doing really well here.
Did it give you more of a sense of freedom to be able to express who you were as a person?
Absolutely. Yeah, they're very, very accepting of just all types of people, all races, obviously, but just all sort of sexual orientations. I know that in other schools maybe they have sort of a prejudice, or not a prejudice, but they're not socially accepted.
Yep.
In that sense. Whereas MIC is just we love who you are, and we want you to be the best you that you can be.
How much more motivation did that give you to then keep working towards what you were doing, knowing that you're going to a school and going into an environment that you knew was going to accept who you were?
Yeah, I think they treated us like adults, and I think, funny enough, the more freedom they gave us, the better I found myself doing. Which sounds funny, because usually in senses where you get too much freedom, you mess up.
Yep. Or
you don't do as well. But for me, I was just these guys are treating me like adults. I want to be here. And I've always found that when I want to do something, I find myself doing 10 times better. So the fact that I wanted to go to this school made everything amazing.
Well, that's fantastic to hear. How can people get in touch with you and go to your gigs and see your shows? What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, no, just my music page, my email, my Instagram as well. I'm gonna start putting music on my YouTube, everything. Just try and make sure that everybody can reach me.
So what are those tags so everyone out there can get in touch with you?
It's Bailey Rivera Music. For Instagram as well?
Yeah, for all of them.
Okay, cool.
Because we want to get, what we want to do is we want to get everyone in touch.
That's awesome.
Following who you are.
So for Facebook, it's Bailey Rivera. For Instagram, it's Bailey Rivera Music. For YouTube, same thing, Bailey Rivera. And email is baileyrivera00@gmail.com.
Well, Bailey, it's been wonderful having you on.
It's been a pleasure.
We wish you good luck in the future. Bailey Rivera, everybody.
Thank you so much.